answer. As a member of the 2014 class, I wasn't just placed in a position. I was placed on a path that taught me to lead with empathy, to listen deeply, and to build on the strengths already present in the communities we serve. Without Americorps, I'm not sure where I'd be. But more importantly, without Americorps, I'm not sure where this community would be. Because it was through those values, through that hands-on learning, that we were able to create the Planet Youth Coalition, which became, with the support of Senator Chris Coons and the Office of National Drug Control Policy, a drug-free community coalition. As a result, our community has been able to respond to the real needs about substance abuse, youth mental health, and positive development, not by focusing on what's wrong, but by building on what's strong. That's national service. That same spirit, supported by State Representative Deb Heffernan and generous donors like Instructure, has helped sustain our partnership with the Food Bank of Delaware, making sure that families in our neighborhoods have consistent access to food and compassion. That's national service. That's why the recent news that Americorps funding was cut is so difficult. I think of all the young people who were just beginning their journeys of national service, who won't get to finish it. With recent cuts, public ally sites in 4 different cities were instantly shuttered and closed. The allies and nonprofit future leaders who had made a commitment to a 10-month service learning experience were instructed to cease operations instantly. As a result of those losses, I think of the communities who won't receive the support they were expecting this week or next. And I also begin to worry about the long-term impact those losses will have upon our societal infrastructure. The immediate impact is easy to document, but it's the long-term losses of future leadership as a result of cutting funding to Americorps and national service that will haunt this nation for many years to come. Silence is consent. When it comes to supporting the next generation of individuals who are willing to dedicate their time, treasure, and talent to become Americorps members and so serve both our country and their communities through federally funded national service programs, we speak with one unified voice. Supporting national service is our patriotic duty. It is how we empower others to become better citizens and help create the next generation of civic leaders. Public allies and Americorps changed my life. It shaped who I am, and I know I'm not alone. National service doesn't just transform individuals, it transforms neighborhoods. It creates the kind of leadership that stays, listens, and keeps showing up, regardless of funding. I'm proud to still be here 12 years later, doing exactly that. And now, it's my honor to introduce someone who shares that same commitment to service and community, the CEO of the Food Bank of Delaware, Kathy Konevsky.
Thank you, Daniel. Good morning.
Good morning.
What a beautiful day. My name is Kathy Konevsky, and I have the honor of serving as the President and CEO of the Food Bank of Delaware. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of today's event. It is a privilege to be with you all. Our presence sends a message that we care deeply about our neighbors, our communities, and the future of service in America. At the Food Bank of Delaware, we see the needs and challenges of our community every single day. Seniors choosing between food and medication, families struggling to make ends meet. They are the essential workers, the service providers, the caregivers, and the backbones of many communities. They work hard, sometimes multiple jobs, but they still find themselves financially fragile, with little to no savings and constant worry about unexpected expenses. And now we're facing an even greater challenge. Due to recent federal funding cuts, we lost 19 truckloads of food expected to arrive between April and July. We were expecting hard-to-get food, milk, eggs, frozen meat, fruits, vegetables, and more. The USDA's Emergency Food Program has long been a lifeline for food banks, supplying essential items like fresh produce, dairy, protein, and shelf-stable items. For years, we've been steadfast partners with USDA, and without their support, it becomes really hard to fulfill our mission of feeding Delawareans struggling with food insecurity. To add to the challenges, we received news over the weekend that tariffs will start to impact our food purchasing power. Our vendor has indicated that cranberry sauce will increase $7 to $10 a case starting next week. We purchased to fill in gaps in donations and USDA product. Decreased USDA foods and an increased cost to purchase that food will be detrimental to our work. The support of our community is needed now more than ever. In times of political uncertainty, we cannot afford to lose the very systems that hold our community together. Americorps is one of those systems. Their service members are boots on the ground, helping to feed, educate, house, and support our most vulnerable. Losing that would be another devastating blow. But we are not powerless. We are united. We must stand together to protect what matters most: basic human dignity, compassion, and community. It's my honor to introduce someone who understands that public service is not a partisan issue. It's a moral one. A tireless advocate for national service, a true friend of the Food Bank of Delaware, and I might say of mine too, and someone who shows up when it matters most. Please help me in welcoming Senator Chris Coons.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Daniel. Daniel, thank you for opening us up today with the perfect personal story of how national service launched your public service journey, transformed the arc of your career, and helped sustain this remarkable and important community center. And Kathy, thank you for helping us understand how Americorps helps bring together different resources. I'll just take a moment up top. What is Americorps? It is a 30-year-old national service program that is federally funded and federally structured and supported, but locally led, locally adapted, that brings together nonprofits at the grassroots level, individuals willing to spend a year or two of their lives serving our communities, nonprofits that have needs, and volunteers from our community. It is a great model that has long enjoyed strong bipartisan support from nonprofits, from mayors, from governors, from senators, until just a few weeks ago when Doge and Elon Musk showed up at Americorps headquarters. They thought surely this organization, with decades of strong bipartisan support, would survive. Senator Cassidy, a Republican from Louisiana, didn't just call and say, wait a minute, but sent his own staff to sit in the room and say, what is it you're planning to do here? Well, within a few days, the answer came out: lay off 85% of the national staff. And then a few weeks later, with a sickening thud, cuts to $400 million worth of Americorps grants all over our country began hitting all over our country. NCCC, which responds to natural disasters, were fired and told to go home in the middle of their service year. Americorps Vista, Americorps State and Local, programs administered here in Delaware and all over the country, took devastating cuts. And what's next on the horizon? President Trump's proposed budget, which just came to Congress last week, says he will eliminate Americorps completely. Let me just start by saying thank you to everybody who's here to say this is a terrible idea. Out of many awful things that Doge has done to tear up and destroy long-standing, respected federal agencies that do good work, this one hits particularly close to home. It was 30 years ago when I worked for the National I Have a Dream Foundation that I helped launch one of the very first national Americorps programs, along with public allies, Teach for America, City Year, Habitat for Humanity. There were a dozen promising bright, new national programs that brought together nationally known nonprofits like Boys and Girls Club and Americorps members willing to dedicate a year or two of their lives to recruiting volunteers, to making our community safer and stronger, and to making a lasting difference. Millions of Americans have gotten the start to their public service career, have earned money for college, have recruited others to volunteer, have made a lasting difference for nonprofits as a result of their time leading and serving in these organizations. I cannot tell you how angry I am at this particular cut that cuts so deeply at the very heart of what it means to be an American. Because our country has always outstripped literally every other country in volunteerism. Being willing to reach out and help our neighbors, seeing our neighbors as something more than just those few who speak the same language or from the same country or have the same faith or look like us. Americans have always not waited for government to solve problems, but reached out as volunteers and helped each other. The Food Bank of Delaware, Kathy, is one of the most effective ways that we help take from the resources of the abundance of our farmers and our commercial sector and donate to the families and children who need them most. And Americorps members were helping the food bank with collecting and distributing this critical help. So the food bank just took a double hit. The cuts from the USDA emergency food deliveries that they were waiting for, and a reduction in the helping hands that Americorps has long represented across so many organizations. This isn't about saving money or combating waste. A study done a few years ago proved that for every dollar invested in Americorps, we got $17 back for our communities in skills, in careers, in reading, in combating opioid abuse, in supporting veterans, in building affordable housing, in combating hunger. Americorps members have made an enormous difference. And DOJ just canceled the service of 113 of them here in Delaware. Tutors, first responders, lifelines for the vulnerable. Having had that early experience when I was, many years later, elected county executive, I helped launch an Americorps program with our volunteer fire service that helped for years with recruitment and retention in Delaware's volunteer fire community. So where do we go from here? Well, thankfully, our Attorney General, Kathy Jennings, is standing up in court to say because there was a law passed by Congress, signed into law by the president, funding these programs, Elon Musk and DOJ don't get to just charge into the headquarters and order it all shut down. It actually violates the law. God willing, this case will lead to a restraining order just like 115 others. Someone came up to me at church on Sunday and said, "How does he keep doing this? Isn't it illegal?" I said, "Yes." And actually, in more than 100 cases, federal judges have said what Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and DOJ are doing violates the law, the Constitution, or both. So let's hope that the attorneys general from a dozen states who are litigating this succeed in stopping it and rolling it back. Let's be committed to ensuring that this incredible program doesn't just survive, but once again thrives. And I tell you, I will fight endlessly to prevent the collapse and the killing of Americorps in this budget, in this Congress. We need to take a message back. My message to President Trump and Elon Musk is don't take America out of Americorps. Don't cut the very heart of national service here at home. Don't hurt every city, county, state, and community in America. Reverse this brutal cut. As Bill Gates said memorably over the weekend, it's not a good look for the richest man on earth to be dedicating his time to cutting support and services for the very poorest and neediest children and families in our country and around the world. Let's stand up together and say no to Americorps cuts, no to ending national service, and yes to sustaining this incredible commitment and this incredible investment in our country. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I would like to introduce John Sullivan, the Senior Administrator of the State Office of Volunteerism.
Thank you very much. I'm the Senior Administrator for State Office of Volunteerism. I'm also the Executive Director of the Governor's Commission on Community and Volunteer Service. Thank you, Senator Coons, for your tireless and consistent championing of Americorps and national service. Your leadership has proven invaluable both in Delaware and across the country. Americorps has transformed countless lives, not only by uplifting the communities we serve, but by also instilling a profound sense of purpose among its dedicated members. Once individuals join Americorps, they become part of an enduring family of service, bound by shared commitment, compassion, and the drive to effect meaningful change. This bond not only enriches their lives, but they also fuels a broader ripple effect within the communities they touch, creating a legacy of hope and resilience. Americorps Vista, volunteers in service to America, which is at the forefront in combating poverty by building nonprofit capacity and strengthening community systems. In Delaware, Vista members work diligently in areas such as education, workforce development, health services, providing essential strategic planning, fundraising, and programmatic support that lays a foundation for sustainable change. Equally inspiring is the National Civilian Community Corps, which we call NCCC, which engages young adults in immersive, team-based residential service focused on disaster response, environmental conservation, and infrastructure improvement. Together, these programs not only provide critical services, but also cultivate leadership, drive civic participation, and create a legacy of empathy, resilience, and collective empowerment across generations. We have a program in Lewis Children's Beach House, and Americorps youth workers provide essential tutoring, mentoring, and after-school support to low-income children in Milton, Delaware. In 2024, the program expanded its work at Milton Elementary School, where it had already been delivering enrichment programming for the past 2 academic years. The initiative will assume responsibility for the Milton Elementary's after-school program and replicate it at H.O. Brigham Elementary School and host summer day camps at both schools, thereby broadening its reach and impact. Leading Youth to Empowerment is an Americorps program that demonstrates our commitment to change by focusing on education and economic opportunity. Through this program, Americorps members are building robust college support programs while also working to expand economic opportunities through strategic internships within health and nonprofit organizations. This dual focus ensures that young people are supported not only academically, but also professionally, paving the way for a brighter future. One of the cornerstones of Americorps is the Siegel Education Award. This award to members upon successful completion of their term of service is equivalent to the maximum value of the Pell Grant for that fiscal year. It offers members the opportunity to repay qualified student loans or pay current educational expenses at eligible institutions. This award not only erases the financial burden of furthering one's education, but also underscores the long-term value of dedicating one's to service. In addition to the dynamic programs that I just talked about, we also have the Americorps senior programs, the Foster Grandparent Program, Senior Companion, RSVP. They have made a profound impact in Delaware. The Foster Grandparent Program offers older adults the opportunity to serve as role models, mentors, and friends to children with exceptional needs. The Foster Grandparent seniors, often with years of life experience and wisdom, engage in schools, Head Start programs, and child daycare centers, providing the kind of passionate guidance that supports academic achievement and emotional well-being in young people. This intergenerational service model not only benefits the children by giving them a stable, positive influence, but also enriches the lives of the seniors, keeping them physically and mentally active while fostering a deep sense of personal fulfillment. The Senior Companion Program brings together experienced, caring volunteers with seniors who need assistance with daily tasks ranging from meal preparation, light housekeeping, transportation, and companionship, ensuring that older adults can maintain their independence while living with dignity among their community. And then the RSVP program, the Retired Seniors Volunteer Program, that empowers Americans aged 55 and older by connecting them with meaningful volunteer opportunities that tackle critical community issues such as food security, economic empowerment, and capacity building. Participants leverage decades of life experience and skills to address local needs while also mitigating social isolation and fostering personal growth and community connection. This network of service creates a vibrant intergenerational family whose collective impact builds a legacy of empathy, resilience, and empowerment across our communities. Senator Coons, your dedicated support has been instrumental in ensuring that these activities continue to flourish, driving transformative change across Delaware and the country. It is through visionary leadership like yours that Americorps can continue to empower individuals, strengthen communities, and create a legacy of resilience and opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next, we would like to introduce the governor of the great state of Delaware, Matthew Meyer.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Everybody here? Good morning. I've never known Americorps people to be quiet. Good morning. It's good to see everyone here on this beautiful, beautiful day, particularly for those in the shade. 65 years ago, there was a presidential election, a very close presidential election between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon. And a few days before the November election, John F. Kennedy had a rally in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And he was about 5 hours late showing up to that rally. I think he got there 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Anybody that knows Michigan weather in late October, it's not pretty. And there were literally thousands of people, mostly young people there at the university, who stood out for hours waiting for the person who many of them hoped would be the next president of the United States, John F. Kennedy, to give a speech. And then Senator Kennedy got there, and he was exhausted. You can imagine the last few days of a long campaign trail, very close election. And in the middle of his speech, he broke off his stump, and he just looked out, and he said, who among you would be willing to go to the furthest corners of the world to serve these American ideals that we believe in? Who among you would be willing to do that? And a bunch of people raised their hand. And he said, great. And then he got back to his stump speech and finished out. And a few days later was elected president of the United States. And that line in that speech was largely all forgotten, except for a few students at the University of Michigan, who months into his administration were writing to the president saying, hey, you said that thing. And there was no response. So they put together a movement starting at universities that built to the broader public that eventually created something that we know to be the Peace Corps. Decades later, as many of you know, during the Clinton administration, looking at VISTA, which John just mentioned, Volunteers in Service to America, a program that had existed for years, and a number of other New Deal era programs, people said, wait a second, where is our Peace Corps for us here at home? And Americorps and the Corporation for National Service was created. It was about that time that I was finishing college, and I signed up for a program called Teach for America, an Americorps program. And I learned in my Teach for America training that the teacher trainer who said this to me said, this is for only like the craziest among you. But when you create a ladder, like a discipline ladder for students, the last thing on that ladder should be you go to their house. If they don't do what you need them to do, you show up at their door. And so I said, okay, everyone's like, oh, we're not going to do that. I'm like, I think I'm crazy enough to do this. So when I introduced my first year teaching 4th grade in D.C. public schools, I said, here, if you don't do your homework, right? First thing is you lose your recess, right? Second thing is I'm going to call home. And if 3 days in a row you don't do your homework, I'm following you to your house. And I knew that that would be enough, and nothing would ever come of that. Well, in October, a new student showed up in my class, and he was not doing anything. He just wasn't picking up a pencil or anything. So first day, he missed his homework. He loses recess. Second day, doesn't do it again. I call home, and nobody picks up. Third day, that's it. I got to follow him home. And I think he was scared, and I was a lot more scared. I'm like, well, any parent here knows if you make a threat, you got to follow through with it. And so I followed him home. We walked out the front of the door, and then he looked back, he saw me, and he took off through these houses and went like kind of the back way. I didn't know where I was going, and I wasn't going to go chasing after him. He'd probably beat me. So I didn't know what to do. I'm like, if I don't do this, then I've lost my class. Everyone's going to know it's a false threat. So I went back to the teacher's office. I went back to the principal's office. I realized I have his home address, so I just walked there. It was like 3 blocks away. I walk to his house. I knock on the door, and a parent, he sees me. He goes running back. His mom comes out, and she looks like she's had a rough day. And she opens the door, and I explain why I'm there. And she just looks down, and a tear is dropping from her eye. 2 months earlier on a street in D.C., right out front of her house, this young boy, my 4th grader, had seen his sister shot dead. And so we went in, I sat on her couch, and as we spoke, and I did what I tried to do to support that family in that moment, I was scared to death having to wake up the next day and continue to teach this boy and know that I had to teach him throughout the year. We found a way. My relationship with him changed and grew in extraordinary ways. And I spent a lot of time that year thinking about how I could change him and how I could change those students in my class. But now, as your governor, as the only governor in America who served in Americorps, I know how much that impacted me and how much that taught me. And so I know from the individuals here, you know and you see every single day the tremendous impact that Americorps members are having today in our communities. But we know from Senator Lockman, who is an Americorps herself, we know from Representative Heffernan, who's constantly making investments in partnership with Americorps right in this neighborhood, that the day-to-day matters and has tremendous impacts on our community. But there's also a tremendous long-term impact. There are leaders across our community, in government and nonprofit, in the private sector and businesses, in the press, who've had these experiences, who have a different and greater understanding of an America because of Americorps. As Senator Coons so articulately stated, and actually Senator Coons, there are 2 county executives up here. You might see a senator and a governor. I know I look in the mirror, I still see a county executive. Perhaps Senator Coons does too. There are 2 county executives who created Americorps programs. Maybe even 2 county executives in America. I don't want to go that far. I know 2 county executives in Delaware. Senator Coons did extraordinary work creating an Americorps program for first responders. And there are things in government that just kind of happen and you follow along and you support. This program was created because of then County Executive Coons' passion for volunteerism, for service, and for Americorps. And then he actually called me a few years ago in the wake of COVID and said, we have a crisis of the healthcare workforce. Let's create an Americorps program to do that. And so he provided tremendous financial support that enabled us in the county to create National Health Corps of Delaware. And there are members here who can attest to that. Today, or as of a few weeks ago, the president and Doge, taking leadership from a billionaire named Elon Musk, canceled many programs across this state and basically told Americorps members they weren't going to get paid, many Americorps members, including 25, I believe, reading assist members. For those 25 members, the federal grant is $305,000. $305,000. That works out to about $12,000 per Americorps member. Not only is what Doge is doing and what the president is trying to do offensive to our values, it also don't math. The math doesn't make sense. You're trying to save $1 trillion by cutting the people who are making $12,000? Does that make sense? A couple days after I was elected, one of my first calls was to a neighboring governor named Wes Moore. I've actually known Wes for a while, and one of the things that Governor Moore has done is he's incorporated service learning into high school diplomas and created a Diploma Plus for Maryland students. And I told him, Wes, I just want you to know you're getting a lot of attention for this. You're gonna have some competition. And we joked about, I bet you here in Delaware, we can get more young people doing service per capita than you have in Maryland. That's the kind of competition we need. That's the kind of competition I'm going to remain committed to. As John knows, and we haven't really said publicly, we don't want to screw up Kathy Jennings and the Attorney General's cases. But we've made very clear to any AmeriCorps program in this year, through August, none of your members should leave their worksite. We will make sure, if the Fed says no, we will say yes. Now, the challenge of that, as Senator Coons and many of you know well, is that with executive orders, we've done pretty well. And I should add to what Senator Coons said, we have had over 100 orders stopping Trump executive orders, judicial orders stopping Trump executive orders. These are judicial orders from judges appointed by Ronald Reagan, by George Bush, by Barack Obama, by Joe Biden, by Donald Trump. Judges appointed by each of these presidents who have said no to executive orders of the Trump administration. I'm fully confident that the attorneys generals are going to win this one as well. But whether they win or not, there's a legislative wave coming, a legislative hurricane that we need all of you to help to stop. Senator Coons is on the front lines of that fight. We're talking almost every day about the things trying to be done in Washington to take away our right to clean air, our right to make a decent living with decent wages, our right to basic health care and basic affordable housing, and our right to support people in our community, those heroes locally who raise their hand at community centers like this and say, send me to serve, because that, as we know, will reverberate for generations. Jay Street, councilman, since we have a Newcastle County theme, Newcastle County Councilman Jay Street likes to say, if we believe in it, we're going to legislate it. And if we don't win, we're going to litigate it. And if we don't win, we're going to demonstrate it. So think of that. We got to legislate, we got to litigate, and we got to demonstrate. This is the people's country. This is the people's state. This is the people's community. And no matter what Doge and President Trump are doing, we're going to make sure we keep it that way here in Delaware. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those remarks. I would like to introduce next Paul Calistro, the Executive Director of West End Neighborhood House.
Good afternoon, and for those of you in the sun, double good afternoon. JJ, thanks for shading half of the group. We appreciate it. If you have served in Americorps or currently serve in Americorps, would you just raise your hand? Thank you for your service. Thank you. Thank you. You know, one of the nice things about being at almost the end of the agenda is almost everything's been said. But not everything's been said, right? We know, as Delawareans and as Americans, that calling something America does not make it American. Calling it something America does not make it American. Because we know that patriotism, our willingness to serve our neighbors, our compassion to those who face disasters. That's what exemplifies being an American. And these are the core values that this nation was built on. You know, we've heard about some presidents already, but, you know, it goes back to really people like Benjamin Franklin, who said, we're going to start a volunteer fire corps. And he started the first volunteer fire department 30 miles up the road. And, you know, today, Delawareans are still volunteering to serve America in Delaware. And I just want to say that I am truly moved by the work that you've done as Americorps members, and I know many of you. You quietly go into the night and take care of others. That's my America. That's the America my father told me about, and that's the America I believe in. Don't worry, I won't do all 3 pages. But I think it's important to take note of what others think about us as we try to think about defining and branding who we are as Americans. Alexis de Tocqueville, he toured America in the 1800s and wrote a book, What Made America Great? What Made America Great? And he said, the health of a democratic society may be measured by the qualities of functions performed by private citizens like you. We are what makes America great, right? I want to share 2 stories. One's, and these are 2 young people that had started to serve Americorps at West End. One is Ryan. He's a dedicated 26-year-old college student from Delaware who delayed 1 year of his education because he said, you know, Paul, it's important that I teach younger students in math and science so they can reach their dreams, their hopes, and their prayers. He was hoping to get a Siegel Award. He was hoping to get a Siegel Award to help pay for his tuition because he doesn't come from a family of means, but having that college education is what's important to him. Unfortunately, that hope was dashed away when he received a 2-day notice, 2 days, that his service was ended. But Governor, Senator, thank you for saying, let's hold off. And we did not. We did not say leave. You know, it's not just Democrats, it's Republicans and Americans who believe in tradition of serving. You know, volunteering to help your neighbor is an old American tradition and among our most distinctive traditions. That's the words of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan. So I want to talk about one more young man. Shaheed, a proud Americorps member who just finished completing 9 years of service to the Army. He gave up 9 years to serve our country, and he decided that he wanted to spend 1 more year helping America by becoming an Americorps. And he said to me, Paul, I think I can help with my experience communicate to young people that there's a way away from violence, there's a way away from gangs, there's a way away from drugs, and there's a future for you, and I just wanted to spend time with those. I think a veteran like Shaheed deserves more than a 2-day notice. You know, I've engaged my colleagues recently, not just about Americorps, but what's happening in HUD, what's happening in LIHEAP, what's happening in all these other programs that are the government safety net. But not as only the government safety net on fire, it's shredding the not-for-profit safety net as well. And we have to no longer be silent voices, but we need to be heard, we need to speak loudly, we need to be not afraid to not only tell our story, but to be true Americans and show others that by being an American, we're here to serve America, Delaware, and our communities. Thank you so much.
This is national service. I'd like to introduce Carolyn O'Neill, the CEO of Reading Assist, to share some remarks with us.
Thanks, everyone. It's been a week, y'all, so I might need all 3 pages here. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for giving me some time to speak here. On behalf of Reading Assist, Delaware's largest Americorps program, we have 120 members serving across the state of Delaware, DC, and Pennsylvania. We are teaching 2,200 kids how to read here in this first state. My first thought when I found out about today, my just gut reaction was, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like, I was proud. You guys have done amazing things in the state of Delaware, are doing amazing things for this country, and so my first reaction was, oh man, I wish my family were here. I want my family to see this. Like many Americans and many of the people here, especially the people here, I come from a family of service. My grandparents were serving in World War II, not just my grandfathers, my grandmother as well. My father served in Vietnam, my uncle was in the Air Force, my brother went to the Peace Corps, and I started my career as a Fulbright teaching assistant. This would have been such an exciting moment to share the incredible work that our members have been doing here in the state. And then I remembered why I'm here, and that I should be excited. We should be talking about the hundreds of kids that the Americorps members who are serving were impacting, but that's not why we're here. We're here because many of our members were told on a Saturday night not to show up on Monday for the kids that they'd been working with all school year. We were told that despite agreements and signed contracts, that learning to read was no longer an agency priority. Reading Assist has a long history here in the first state. We're 35 years old, and we've been an Americorps program for about 9 years. When we became an Americorps program, it just changed everything. Immediately, we were able to help more kids, hire more tutors, form more partnerships, and most importantly, our results skyrocketed. We went from serving hundreds, dozens of kids to serving thousands. And because our Americorps members were able to dedicate a full 10 months of service and see kids every single day, the kids started to learn how to read like they had never before. Now we can say 90% of our students reach reading benchmarks. 90% of struggling readers. It's also allowed us to form really cool partnerships like our Tutors to Teachers pathway with Wilmington University and the work we're doing with Howard High School, getting more folks interested and ready to teach. Folks that can take a year of service, earn a master's degree, use that education award to become teachers. So not only are we teaching kids to read, we're creating more teachers for the state. Our members are incredibly diverse, and I know that's like a scary word to say, but we're gonna say it. Our members are incredibly diverse, racially diverse, they come from tons of different backgrounds. The age ranges from 18 to 76. We have folks that come to serve for all different reasons. Many are coming because they wanna explore education and become teachers. Many are serving because they want to give back to a community that they grew up in. And some are doing it because they just want to serve while they're pursuing other passions. Like Gracie, our Eagles cheerleader, Go Birds, she's working as a cheerleader and then serves part-time as an Americorps member. Our fellows, as has been mentioned before, are incredibly excited about their education award. And one of the fellows, I just want to tell her story, Amelia. Amelia is serving at Hartley Elementary School, where she was once a student, and was looking for that education award so that she could get her master's degree and continue to serve her community. I'm gonna pull this up because I wanna get it right. These are Amelia's words. I think she just really nailed it. She said, dismantling Americorps in the name of efficiency couldn't be any further from the truth. So you've heard $12,000 is not gonna close a deficit. I mean, it's not Math Assist, but Americorps is efficient, it's important, and it's commendable. And it has taught Amelia professional skills and opened the doors to higher education and helped her find a career. And I know our members, we've talked about this, you've heard it, they show up every day. How many, can I just get a show from where are my Reading Assist folks? They show up every day, even in the sun. They show up every day, not because it's easy, they know it's hard, and many of them show up even though maybe on the first couple weeks they realized that teaching kids wasn't gonna be for them in the long term. They still showed up because that was a commitment they made. And I was taught by my serving family that in this country, our word is our bond, or at least it should be. And when we make a contract with somebody, like Americorps has done with our members, we keep it. We keep our promises, we keep our commitments, especially to children. To tell folks on a Saturday night that they need to stop teaching their kids on Monday is not the Americorps way, and it's not the Delaware way. So maybe I'm kind of glad my grandparents aren't here, because I think they would not be proud to see an Americorps, an America that doesn't keep its commitments, and where literacy is no longer a national priority. With that, I want to say again, thank you and so much for everything Delaware has done, and thank you to our fellows for showing up despite what they've been told.
And that is national service. I would like to invite Leslie McGowan from Literacy Delaware to give some remarks.
Hi, Delaware. My name is Leslie. Like I said, I'm from Literacy Delaware, and I just wanted to start off by saying that service has always been part of my professional and personal life. I have been an active volunteer. My work has always included working with volunteers in other parts of the country, working with high school students and college students on service trips, alternative spring breaks. My husband is a 2-time Americorps alum, and I know the power of the A. So that was why I was excited to join Literacy Delaware 3 years ago, and I had the privilege of being the program director for a brand new program working with adults, and the honor of working with members that had answered our call to service to create a more literate Delaware. We are, like I mentioned, a statewide nonprofit whose mission is to work with adults. This is typically an overlooked and underfunded population to advance literacy through tutoring, training, and advocacy. So I wanted to also share with you today that 55% of adults in Delaware read at or below the 6th grade reading level. So that means more than half of our neighbors have difficulty helping their kids with homework, with filling out applications at the doctors, or advancing their careers. Our organization helps learners like John, who his adult literacy instructor recently helped him study, prepare, and pass for an exam to be included in the next certified nursing assisting program. It's like, yes. It's learners like Lewis, who currently has a job at a bank downtown in Wilmington, but is working with us on his foundational and digital literacy skills to get a promotion at work. And it's also for learners like Meyer, who now has the confidence to support her daughter in helping her with homework after school. These are goals and milestones that we might take for granted, but these are goals and milestones that our learners thought might be out of reach. And obviously, the impact doesn't stop with learners. Our volunteer instructors grow too. Through service, they find themselves gaining skills in teaching, in leadership, in community engagement. This is an experience that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. So when we received the news of the termination of our Americorps grant, we were devastated, right? For the 100+ adults that our Americorps members are currently serving that are left in limbo, for the relationships and the trust that has been built since their year started in September, and for some of our members that have been with us for the full 3 years of our program. For now, for our 11 Americorps members that took an oath to commit to a year of service, who rely on their monthly stipends and that are budgeting for their education award to afford college. This work impacts real people in our community. And our Americorps program in Literacy Delaware is not a budget line. We work with real people that are making a real impact in Delaware. And I think this makes it all the more clear that literacy programs are needed now more than ever. And I just wanted to end just as a reminder for everyone that may have never heard the Americorps Pledge before, but there's a lot of great nuggets in there. One of them says, when faced with apathy, I will take action. And faced with adversity, does anyone know? I will persevere. So I just want to respect and applaud and show appreciation to all the members that took that oath, that have committed to their year of service, and apologies for the timing that was taken away from you and your term of service. And I just want to thank all of our team members and our elected officials for being such strong advocates and being the voices that need to be amplified. Thank you.
And that is national service. So we began with a personal testimony, and we'd like to end with a personal testimony. I'd like to invite Jocelyn Rodriguez, Public Allies Class of 2017-2018, to come up and give some thoughts. Jocelyn, come join me.
Felt like a long walk. Good afternoon, everyone. So I got a text message a couple minutes before coming here if I was willing to speak. And I always say when it comes to public allies, of course. I moved back to Delaware about a year ago. I served in 2017 and 2018 here in Delaware, and then I went out to Colorado at a school called Eagle Rock School that was also a partner of Public Allies at the time, and that's where I completed my second year. As I was navigating my first year in Public Allies, I was really nervous. I worked in summer youth employment, grew up in Wilmington, Delaware on the west side of Wilmington, and attended LACC what feels like all my life. Still there and still committed to supporting students on the west side of Wilmington as much as I can. And then through that partnership, I learned about Public Allies, and I was working for Strive. I'm going to put a lot of plugs in here of people that have paved the way for me to be a public ally. And Strive started a conversation with Andrea and Jeremy at the time, who were working there, who thought about, hey, you should think about becoming a public ally. I didn't know about the program. I think it was about 4 days before they closed out their application deadline. And I was outside on Harrison Street, if you're familiar with Wilmington, and I'm on the phone, and I get a phone call from Jenny. It's a Friday night after hours, around 6 p.m., and she calls and says, hey, are you interested in being a public ally? This is, like I'm saying, right to the deadline of the application period. Right there, I was committed. To show someone like me where I was stuck. I graduated from Wilmington University where I played basketball for 4 years. And if you played a sport that year after playing a sport all your life, feels like real adulting. Everything you did before was with a team, no matter what. Changing in the locker room, to playing sports, to traveling, to training, to then go into what felt like the most loneliest experience of graduating and being able to start my career and then trying to ask the question of what's next, and being first generation in my family. So getting a phone call at Friday night was enough commitment for me to see these people care about me, and I want to see what this is all about. The following week, I went and interviewed with Chanley at Delaware Tech, and I began my journey in work-based learning. All I knew at the time was I've been front-facing with students since I was 14 years old. I want to be behind the scenes. I want to see what it's like to create programs and see the success of programs in the way that it impacts not just one student, but more than one student and more than one organization. And I was able to do that with work-based learning at Del Tech. And then when you're completing your fellowship year or your Americorps year, you complete what we call a presentation of learning. I don't know if folks in the crowd completed a presentation of learning. If you have, can you raise your hand? Yes. They are the most awesome experience, but not for someone who does not like to public speak or talk about themselves. And so I started my presentation of learning. Another week before my presentation of learning, Rachel, who was at Public Allies and also was my program manager, sent out a job out in Colorado. And I knew that I wanted to be able to go out into the world, gain experiences to come back and bring to my community. It felt like I hit my mark in Wilmington of what I wanted to accomplish, and I just wanted to follow my dream of traveling. Public Allies, you tell them a dream, and they're going to hold you accountable. So they did just that. I went through my presentation of learning and talked about what I wanted to do, and then introduced the idea of going to Eagle Rock School out in Colorado, where I completed my second year. I got hired full-time. And then the beginning of service very much began for me as I transitioned to working abroad. I lived in Spain and Latin America and the Caribbean, doing programs for youth all over the world. And all of that is through service, through what I've learned in Public Allies. I think, you learn a lot of skills. You go through Friday trainings. You go through meeting people and seeing the impact that you can have in your community, especially in a small state like Delaware. But to be around people that care about you and your life and what you're going to do with your life and hold you accountable, not just with words, but with actions, and centering all of that around love was how I figured Public Allies was the place for me. So I've been able to do all of that, and when I came back, unfortunately, under these circumstances, we began working. We went to go celebrate former program manager Rachel, and I had a conversation of whatever Public Allies needs, please reach out. A couple of days later, they did just that, and we began working on projects on how to make sure we can sustain this program beyond what's going on in this country. Through Public Allies, I've also have younger siblings, and it's part of graduation in my house now to be a Public Ally. So my sister Natalie, my sister Amanda, and hopefully my younger brother in 2 years when he graduates will be a Public Ally as well. Thank you. You know, to talk about a journey, it's really easy, but to talk about an impact, I wish you could feel my heart, because it's bigger than Public Allies. I talk about it when we have our meetings. It's the people. The people is what brings me back to Wilmington. The people is what brings me back to service. And the people is what continues to bring me back to Public Allies. So I don't know if we've named them in this space, but I want to thank Rachel, Jenny, Candace, and Tina for all the work that they've done, not with myself, but Public Allies throughout the state, also with my siblings that I hold really close in my heart, because I can see how much it's impacted them. Natalie, every year, continues to try to be a Public Ally, and they keep saying no. Go out and change the world. You're already ready. But just hearing the reminder of people who've seen your journey, especially being in a part of a family where we're kind of starting carrying the torch. Not always do you have people to follow, but being a part of a network like Public Allies and a graduate of a program, it feels like finally we have just that. So thank you for all that you do, and thank you for our team at Public Allies Delaware for keeping our dreams alive, really.
Thank you for your service. And that is national service. National service is one of the most powerful ideas this country has ever invested in. It takes ordinary people and invites them to do extraordinary things, not for recognition, but for the greater good. It builds bridges between generations, across neighborhoods, into futures we haven't imagined. We must protect and uplift this work, not just for the people who serve, but for the communities that depend on it. Thank you for believing in this mission. Thank you for helping to amplify our voices. Thank you for walking with us. Let's keep building, keep dreaming, keep serving. This is national service. Thank you very much. The event is officially over.